I came with him. He laid a charge. He came down and gave his evidence. Another summons was issued, so he's got 2 charges now against him. Both are being heard tomorrow. Well, one of the hearings is tomorrow. I'll explain in a minute. And now Dave Butterfield has gone down. This guy Lethbridge wrote an article on Butterfield back in '97. So Dave laid 2 charges. So now Lethbridge has 4 charges that have been process has been issued against the guy that he has to appear in court on now. So you got to give credit to the people like Dave Butterfield, Debbie and Westman who have said enough is enough. And we're going out and laying charges. There have been people that have been battling Lethbridge for 10 years. I know the Lethbridge, the Presslers are battling them, but no criminal charges were laid. And civil, you know what civil is like. The lawyers will just bleed you dry and take you through the whole process. It'll take 3 to 5 years. And they still haven't even got their money, even though they won 70 grand off the guy. Which in no way compensates, by the way, for the fact that they put his business under. Okay? So you really have to give a lot of credit to the people that are taking charge and saying, that's it, we're laying our own criminal charges. Debbie's never laid a charge before, never been in court before. Neither has Westman. And for them to come up and do that takes a lot of guts. Right? Give them a hand for that. So we got a press release out. After the press release came out, they had an article by Mohini Singh. One of their favorite tricks for the reporters is to come down and ask you a bunch of questions, and you know how they misrepresent everything and they lie and so on. And why is it politicians never have that problem? They don't get the problem because before any reporter is allowed to even say a word, they have to forward in advance a list of questions they're going to ask those people. So the members of parliament, etc., before they do an interview, they've got a list of what questions they're going to ask and how to they know how to respond already. That's why they very rarely get caught off guard. So when the reporters came out, Mohini Singh actually came to the house here. We told them in advance. I said, I want questions. And they provided them. And I don't mind answering them. Debbie or West don't mind answering their questions. What we object to is when they come in and start asking stupid questions that are none of their business, that have no relevance to the issue, and then they start misconstruing facts or try to provide stuff that's not relevant. A good case was a guy that got convicted recently on failure to file or tax evasion, and the Crown continually brought in people in relation to the charge, and the people got up and said yes, they had paid him money and they had been allegedly ripped off by the guy. Well, on tax evasion, the only thing that's relevant is did the guy receive money and did he falsely lie about it? Whether they got ripped off or not is irrelevant. That's another issue. That's fraud charges if it was to apply, and no fraud charges were laid on him. So why was the Crown bringing all these witnesses out before a jury? And the only reason is clear. They wanted to get the jury, and the jury was probably sitting back going, hey, he ripped off all these people. He's guilty. And that has nothing to do with anything. The only issue was did he, fraudulently rip off Canada Customs, failing to report income. And in a similar sort of scenario, there are articles they put in the paper. They'll harp on stuff that's not even irrelevant. They'll bring up issues that have nothing. All the stuff you've heard on Eustace Mullins, which is almost, if not all, completely false as far as I'm concerned, all started when he was on the stand in Ed Dake's court case and accepted by the court as an expert witness. We caught them off guard. They had no idea he was even in the country until his testimony was on the stand on how the central banking and the Federal Reserve systems work. Everything started after that about Eustace. Everything you've heard started from the day we had him in court with Ed. So we got the show. I want to show you on the video here that was on TV. With Debbie, the interview that they did with David Lethbridge, and I'll make a couple comments on it as soon as we're done. And I'm not very adept at working machines, so Debbie, work it.
Later, Mom.
How much more time do I have, by the way?
15 minutes.
Okay.
Dave, have you got the box that TV came in?
I'm not going to go there. Can everybody see it okay?
Racism crusader will be in court next week, facing a criminal charge for allegedly defaming another Okanagan citizen. The charge comes as a surprise to David Lethbridge because almost all criminal charges are laid by Crown prosecutors. This one, however, was laid by a private citizen. Mohini Singh has details.
David Lethbridge is no stranger to controversy. The Salmon professor is outspoken and is well known for his anti-racism crusade. But now he's involved in a legal fight, all because of an article on fascism he wrote on his website.
It's the article you have.
Recently, I've been taken reference to a very unusual step Using a little-known section of the criminal code, Debbie Anderson has charged David Lethbridge with defamatory libel for an article published on his website. Anderson says she's been labeled a fascist, a fact she denies so strongly that she believes it's libelous. The charge caught Lethbridge by surprise.
This is a private complaint. It was much to my surprise, I think most Canadians would be surprised to find out that criminal charges can be brought to court, not by the police, not by the Crown, but by private citizens.
The RCMP say they're also investigating this allegation. They admit it's a rare case.
It's not normal for citizens to lay private information, but if the opportunity arises and they meet all the requirements for laying an information, they have the liberty to do that.
The complainant is the master of ceremony of a festival scheduled to be held this summer just outside Salmon Arm. This man was supposed to be one of the speakers. American national Eustace Mullins is well known for his anti-Semitic views, and some of his writings have been used in hate literature by Canada Customs. Lethbridge fought hard to stop Mullins from coming to Salmon Arm this summer. BC's Hate Crimes Unit started investigating the group organizing the festival. As a result of the controversy, Mullins decided not to come to BC. Lethbridge believes that's why he's being taken to court.
This is revenge for a successful effort to keep a neo-Nazi like Eustace Mullins out of our town and out of our province and out of our country. To me, this smacks absolutely of revenge and nothing else.
Lethbridge calls this case a smear campaign, but he says he isn't about to back down from what he believes in.
Of course I'm going to fight this out.
In Salmon Arm, Mohini Singh, CHBC News.
And CHBC has learned another Salmon Arm resident has begun the process of laying a similar charge against David Lethbridge. Lethbridge says his lawyer has told him this case has no merit, and he believes the charges against him will be stayed. A strike at
First interview with you, Dan.
At that time, we didn't do one.
Oh, yeah. Only by phone.
Now, his comments, as I said earlier, the right of you to a person to lay a charge predates the police hundreds of years, thousands of years. This little-known section that they're talking about is Section 504 of the Criminal Code, and it's one of the major weapons you have against these people. Now, Lethbridge's comment that it's against his successful attempt to keep Eustace out of the country. How can that be? Debbie doesn't know Eustace, never even heard of him, or you may have heard of him, but didn't even talk to him, has no idea who he was prior to his showing up in Canada here. He made it up for Ed Dick's case. So his comments are wholly erroneous and without merit, and his lawyer's comments that the charges are without merit. What do you expect from a lawyer? He wants to take it to the Court of Appeal, right? A lawyer's going to come up and say, yeah, his client's guilty, right? What lawyer's going to do that? He's not going to be a lawyer for the guy very long. So those charges are before the court tomorrow morning in Salmon Arm, 9:30. The RCMP have not fully done their investigation. I have to admit I'm not too happy with the progress of it. There's certain things they haven't done yet. The Crown has not decided whether they're going to intervene or not. It's presumed right now to be an indictable offense because I haven't decided. Well, my position is it is indictable, but the Crown has not intervened to decide what they're going to do yet. So David Lethbridge is required to appear in person tomorrow. And I can tell you now, if he's not there in person tomorrow, I have no idea where he is. It's the middle of summer, and I will seek a warrant for his arrest. Now, as I said, Dave Butterfield has also laid 2 charges. I'm not sure yet when that comes to court. I won't know till tomorrow morning when I get there. But there's 4 charges now laid against him. I think that gets the point across. Any more charges would, I think, be redundant and probably imply an improper motive. All we're seeking here is justice. We don't want this guy bringing out these kind of comments. We don't mind criticism. Go ahead, criticize us. But don't start labeling us and calling us fascists when we're not. And as I said, the criminal code says it can be done by innuendo and or by irony. And this is, in my opinion, this is direct. Prescription for fascism, alternative medicine, and right-wing politics. What could be more obvious, right? A couple last little points. I got about 10 minutes left. This letter I received from Paul Martin. I really didn't want to write it myself or send it in myself, so I wrote it and got Tom Kennedy to send it in for me because I didn't know if I'd get the correct response. Wanting to know all the government's budget, debts, etc. since I wanted it from 1867. I guess I only got it from 1910. What it shows, and this was signed in person by Paul Martin. I'll read you one sentence. Virtually all of Canada's debt has accumulated since 1913. Remember Vern yesterday showing in 1913, all the way up? Now you know why. An income tax was brought in to pay for that. How was that for the Peace Order of Good Government of Canada? And all the figures are right here to show it. So we got copies of this if anybody wants any. The other thing we're going to be doing, I'm going to be doing next week, I had a charge of driving without a license in Chatham, Ontario last year. Me and Vern were going through there, come back in through the States to come into Canada. And they charged me with speeding and driving without a license. I had filed a challenge to it and showed up in court. I had caught the Crown lying to me on one occasion. The Crown was really, really arrogant. One of those small little towns that, you know, the Justice of the Peace and the prosecutor and the police, they're on a first-name basis. They go for beers together, and you get there's no justice. They all work together. And I appeared and filed a motion to get it moved to Toronto, so we can get a lot more people. Nobody wants to drive 3 hours at 6 in the morning to go to court, especially if it's going to last several days. And the Justice of the Peace, I said, was not qualified to hear it. It's a major jurisdictional challenge, 30 pages or something of argument. And Justices of the Peace have no legal training, none. So how are they going to hear this kind of case, right? So her comment to me, when she came to give her decision, was that she was qualified to hear this case, was not going to transfer it because she keeps track of all the latest law journals that come out. So she figured that constitutes having legal training. And at that point, I just filed a notice of abandonment. I said, I'm not even going to proceed. They had it out to convict me, and I'm not going to give them that opportunity. So what I'm doing is a friend here in the BC area has donated a van, and British Columbia's foremost video expert, Mr. Clint at the back, is going to assist me. And I'm going to be taking the van. I don't want to say the date right now, but we're going to be taking the van, and I'm going to be going in through the Coquihalla. I'm not going to pay their $10 extortion fee, and going right through it. And I anticipate the RCMP are going to pull me over. They're going to charge, probably going to, one of two things. They're going to charge me, or they're going to have to let me go. And I'm going to try and convince them to let me go. Then we got the precedent. You have the free use of the highways. If they don't, and they lay a charge on me, then I'm going to be charging the police officer. I will probably wait on a lawsuit because of the expense and time involved, but I will lay criminal charges on him for taking the property, and amongst other things. And then the challenge is going to get filed in British Columbia here on income tax or on driver's licenses. There's a lot of support here for it, and I think that it's a lot easier for me to get to than a little hick town right out in the Niagara Peninsula in Ontario, which I don't go to very often. The challenge is going to be based on a couple things. Number one, as anybody who's ever heard me before speak knows, you have the right to the free use of the highways. It's been a thorn in my side since I was 17, and I haven't had a license in 6 years. I've been traveling using cars just the last few days here and haven't been stopped yet. So that's going to be the first issue, the fact that you don't have to pay any fee of any kind to use the highways. And the second issue is going to be the RCMP have no jurisdiction in Canada anyway. Under the BNA Act, the RCMP only have jurisdiction, or the jurisdiction for administering and enforcing police or the criminal code and all laws it belongs only to the provinces. Which is why you have the OPP in Ontario, the only province in Canada that does it correctly with the Ontario Police Force. Every other province has delegated it to the RCMP. When Manitoba became a province, Sir John Macdonald had to get rid of the RCMP in Manitoba because Manitoba had to install their own provincial police force. And that's the way it should be. Police should be a local because then they know the issues, the communities, the people. They live in the communities. They're responsible, supposed to be. And what responsibility do you get when they got an RCMP officer working the highways, doesn't care about anything, breaking the law, he gets charged? What happens? They just ship him to another part of the country to work, right? The RCMP have no jurisdiction to lay a criminal charge in this country. They have no jurisdiction to lay a Highway Traffic Act or Motor Vehicle Act charge in this country. The only charges an RCMP can lay are federal, non-criminal, non-penal legislation. And that's it. And there's very few of those statutes around. The reason the RCMP and the Northwest Mounted Police were so prevalent at the beginning of the country because of the territories that existed. They weren't provinces. And it was a vast, vast area. They've had 4 charges against me, 2 in Alberta, 2 in British Columbia. As a result, partially, in British Columbia, amongst other things, of laying that challenge before the courts. All 4 charges have been dropped against me. All of them. They don't want that before the court. Yeah. This, I'll pass it around. This is the identification plate that's going to go on my car. Or my van, okay? So I'll pass it around if anybody wants to take a look at it. And I want to give adequate recognition to Mr. Ian Coke Richards, who provided me with a format to use on what he used on his card doing it. And he's provided me with a lot of inspiration. If Ian is here, I don't know where he is right now, but he might be up and working on the computers. If anybody gets a chance to talk to him, brilliant, brilliant man, and has provided me with a lot of inspiration and a lot of moral support. That's the word I'm looking for in what I'm doing. And my book, I had written everything before I even knew Ian, and then I came out and I knew Ian and his history, as he told you the other day about tracing it back to Sir Edward Coke, who was the greatest jurist in England, is really, really good. It's a pleasure and an honor to work with somebody like that. Otherwise, I had a couple quotes I was going to mention. I still got a couple minutes? Okay. This was an article written by Justice O'Halloran in BC on common law in 1948. And the one quote I wanted to read from you from this is something that I want everybody to keep in mind here. I'll leave you with this quote here, and maybe if there's time, a couple questions. The divine right of kings was not rejected in order to put in its place a doctrine of the divine right of Parliament or of the executive to permit the latter, in their turn, to assert an omnipotence denied by the ancient law affirmed time and again over 6 centuries. What that means, folks, is that the divine right